We need to learn some lessons from the shutdown, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Now, I enjoy a good shutdown. We're in day 8. That's fine. I want government to be smaller. Aside from the normal caveats, you and I both know this isn't a real shutdown. 80% of the government's still open, and so it's not even really a shutdown. And we shouldn't have an honest situation. Got all that. I want to also start with the caveats that I don't like the Democrat spending plan and I don't like the Republican spending plan. I think they're both too big and the deficits are huge. And my first priority would be balancing the budget. Nobody wants to do that. So pox on both your houses. Now, that aside, it's bringing up a real good discussion and chance for a learning opportunity when it comes to how we handle healthcare in the United States, because the sticking point seems to be one side says we don't want the Obamacare subsidies to expire. The other side says, yeah, they want to spend more taxpayer money on healthcare for illegals and the Obamacare subsidies. And the other side comes back and they're like, no, illegals can't get Medicaid. It's written into the law. It's impossible. You're lying. This is really starting to tick me off. I remember a year ago. Let's go back in the time machine here to TexasScorecard.com. Remember when the Texas Health and Human Services Commission got that new law that was passed in 2023 saying there's going to be a box at the top of the forms you fill out when you go to the hospital asking about your immigration status. And so it's a voluntary box. You don't have to fill it out. You could also lie on it. No one would really know the difference. But it was just an attempt to finally collect some data on how much of your tax money is going to healthcare for illegal immigrants in Texas. And the first report we got that hospitals in our state spent over $121 million in taxpayer money for illegal immigrants in one single month. That was the data covering November of 2024. 31,000 visits from illegal aliens. The cost was, is almost 122,000. So, we are spending a ton of money, of your money, on illegal immigrants. Yet you have to turn on the TV and see lies about it. And until we can break through this, we're not actually ever going to get to a decent healthcare policy. Half of the people who are trying to come together and find a solution aren't even living in reality. Great example of this, Carolyn Leavitt, the White House spokesperson, this morning doing a press conference where a reporter's arguing with her. We don't spend Medicaid dollars on illegal immigrants. But she uses like the tricky language on healthcare coverage. Well, yeah, it's not providing an insurance policy for it. It's not like ongoing well visits like you can get a comprehensive Medicaid package. But when you go to the emergency room and you're an illegal immigrant and you don't pay your bill, Medicaid gets stuck with it. So it's absolutely damn crystal clear that we're spending taxpayer money on illegal immigrant healthcare. And you have the media arguing with the White House spokesperson about it today.
Thank you. At the top of the briefing, you made a statement about that the Democrats are interested in giving health care to illegal immigrants.
Yes, they are.
U.S. law already prohibits that. It's a 1996 law saying that they cannot give unauthorized immigrants any federally subsidized health care coverage through Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, or the Children's Health Insurance Program. There seems to be a disconnect in the messaging.
Are you denying that Medicaid money has never gone to illegal aliens in the United States of America?
I'm asking you if you can explain the disconnect in the messaging.
I most certainly can. The Democrats' proposal, their continuing resolution, let me just reiterate, the Republicans' continuing resolution was a clean continuing resolution. There was no partisan politics injected into it. There were no conservative wish lists injected to it. What the Republicans want, and still want to this very second, is a clean continuing resolution to fund the United States government. What did the Democrats want in their continuing resolution? They inserted a provision to undo a provision in the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill, that ended taxpayer-funded health care illegal benefits for illegal aliens. Democrats' proposal would require Medicaid to pay more for emergency care provided to illegal aliens than Medicaid does for American patients who are disabled, elderly, or children. And this bill would have also allowed California to continue a gimmick that funds its Medicaid for Illegals program. Those are things that we ended, the Trump administration ended, with the passage and the signage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it is an undisputed fact, a fact that under the Biden administration, illegal aliens were absolutely receiving taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits. In fact, in fiscal year 2024, Medicaid costs for emergency services for illegal immigrants skyrocketed by 142% from the previous year to $9.1 billion. That's 9.1 billion taxpayer dollars that were going to emergency services for illegals. Between President Trump's last full fiscal year under his first administration and Joe Biden's last full fiscal year, Medicaid spending on emergency services for illegal immigrants nearly tripled. There was an increase of 196% between 2020 and 2024. And I have a chart here for you, and I'm more than happy to email it to you. I'd also like to add, because some were asking dishonest questions yesterday about emergency rooms. In Southern California, according to healthcare professionals in 2023 under the Biden administration, Southern California's, quote, entire healthcare system was being bombarded with illegal immigrants and forcing American patients to endure longer wait times. In Denver, Colorado, the CEO of Denver Health stated that 8,000 illegal immigrants made 20,000 visits to the city's health system in 2023, leaving an uncompensated bill totaling over $10 million. So when a legal alien goes to the emergency room, who's paying for it? The American taxpayer. The main safety net hospital in Denver had to turn away patients due to the massive influx of illegal immigrants into the community. And UC Health Hospitals in 2024 reported their system was under stress from an increasing number of migrants. As a result, according to the head of emergency departments and urgent cares across the hospital system, quote, access is impeded for everyone. These are healthcare professionals who dealt with this directly, and there's a lot more where that came from. It is an undisputed fact that Democrats want to give taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal immigrants, period.
Yes, thank God. Thank God. Now, some people, probably half the country, is going to walk away from that thinking, nah, she's lying. That's what Nazis, sexist, bigot, homophobe, literally Hitlers do. Is they're just they lie all the time. They're just a liar in chief, orange man bad, yada yada yada. Fingers in the ears. Don't want to hear it. Let's go back in time to the Democrat primary debate in 2020, where of the dozen Democrat candidates trying to run for president, they were asked about health care for illegals. Everyone raised their hands.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
All of them.
Okay.
Every single one of them have their hand raised. So what's the deal where a CBS reporter is like, how can you dare say that Democrats want to spend taxpayer money on healthcare for illegals? They say it all the time. All right, so we're going to go get to the truth. I'll give you some more info on how bad it is here in Texas. And then you and I have to talk about solutions here because the Democrats are trying to make it worse. Republicans aren't even trying to improve it. They're just trying to kick the can. What's your solution? Because I've got some hot ones. And a lot of people aren't going to like them. That's coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on Newstalk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hello, football fans. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. You about ready to kick off the football weekend? Starts tomorrow, and there's some big games. And you know what? Here's the thing I'm doing. I'm taking the max discount squares. They do these promotional squares that you can put in your lineup to where it's not a gimme. It's not a 100% chance that it's going to win. But it's discounted so much, it's really hard to see how you can't come out ahead on this. So, like, Saquon Barkley is playing. He's the Eagles running back. He's playing against the Giants. If he gets is 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns, so if he gets one touchdown rushing or receiving, boom, you win that square. You can also do it for baseball, like the Chicago Cubs pitcher, Talon. He's starting today. 1.5 pitcher strikeouts. If this dude throws 2 strikeouts, boom, you win that square. So it's really that easy. You can go to just about any sport, go through all your favorite players on your favorite teams, make a lineup of 2 to 6 players. You look at a statistic, you pick more or less. That's it. And all you got to do is do that, turn in your lineup, enjoy the sports that you're already watching anyway, come back and collect your money. You know, you can win up to 2,000 times your money with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Millions of users, billions in prizes awarded. And you can start out, if you haven't downloaded Prize Picks yet and you're just getting started, you can get a little bonus action from us. Download Prize Picks, use promo code WBAP, and you get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. So download Prize Picks, use promo code WBAP, take advantage of $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup, and then come back and tell me how awesome it was, and you're welcome. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Actually, yes. Illegal immigrants are getting your tax dollars for health care, and it's not even up for debate. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. It's exhausting. These people that will just come out and lie to your face. Oh, they're not getting Medicaid dollars to illegals. Here's a great example. Scott Jennings, my hero now on CNN, and Abby Phillips is trying to front this lie that I didn't even have to disprove it. You already know it's a lie. You already know that if an illegal immigrant goes to any medical room, any emergency room in the hospital in the country, they are required to give care. And if that illegal immigrant isn't magnanimous enough to offer to pay for it himself, Medicaid gets the bill. You get the bill, but here they can't stop lying about it.
Other debate about who's going to get taxpayer-funded Medicaid in this country, that's what the memes are about. That's what the fight is about. Democrats want to make it about this subsidy issue. They don't run out to the end of the year, by the way. But the real thing is they filed legislation to repeal what the Republicans did this summer. And so these two issues have been conflated. But the fact is they don't just want the subsidies. They want other things. And the president is drawing attention to it, I think, in a pretty clever way. We just had a national emergency about telling jokes.
Medicaid
I don't know why
is
people
still
can't take
not
a joke.
going to illegal immigrants, Scott.
It is.
And
It really
you know
does.
It's not.
It really does.
So it
does in
it's
several
not.
blue states.
Scott, no, it's not.
It really does.
Listen, the part of the bill that deals with the money that goes to states, it doesn't say anything about their immigration policy. So red state or blue state, those states are getting less money from the federal government. That still has to be dealt with. And that has nothing to do with immigration. And again, Medicaid does not go to undocumented immigrants. SNAP does not go to undocumented immigrants. CHIP does not go to undocumented immigrants.
It absolutely does.
I don't know. I mean, Scott, prove me wrong.
How many blue states?
Show me the law.
How many blue states? Mike Johnson showed it.
Scott, show me the U.S.
in a gigantic poster on
Show
Friday.
me the U.S. code where it says that they're
It's
allowed to
easily
get
shown.
Medicaid funding.
I will
Where is it?
put it out on social media
It
after
doesn't.
the show,
It doesn't
and I will be
exist.
right, and you
In
will be
fact, the
wrong.
law says
And I will be
exactly
right.
the opposite.
When we say they want to give $200 billion back to illegal aliens, these are the specifics. So you see the final total there, $192.8 billion of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats want to give back to illegal aliens. That's a fact, and nobody can refute it.
So
They're trying to repeal what the Republicans
Scott,
did this summer.
Scott, that is a lie. Okay,
It is not.
Now you might want to dispute whether or not states should get reimbursed from the federal, or should get federal dollars for Medicaid at the levels that they got it before. That's a different issue, but that's not an issue that's actually tied to immigration, and you know it,
Bro, if you lie that bad, like CNN should be able to be sued for that. They should be able to be sued for fraud or libel or slander or whatever the statute would be. But do you think Abby Phillips believes that? Do you think Abby Phillips believes what she's saying? Or is she just being duped? Does she have confirmation bias and someone who told her just blatantly incorrect information, which you and I just through natural deduction know that that's wrong? Does she just believe them because she's incapable of critical thought? Or, I don't want to be that mean to her. She just has confirmation bias. And she's like, well, this helps out Team Blue, so I'll say this and I'll believe this. And I won't do a whole lot of my own research because I might run up against the truth here. That is just a lie. And boy, we know that in Texas. When was the last time you went to the emergency room? What did you see? Here we have NBC doing a report from 2 years ago on how illegals, they call them migrants. And so they were roping in migrants. So legal immigrants, asylum immigrants, people who didn't go through the regular legal process. They just came here and said, oh, I claim asylum because I'm from a dangerous country. And they were getting legal status under Biden. And then, of course, illegals as well. They were
Across public hospitals in New York City, a quarter of the patients are now migrants. Over the last year, nearly 30,000 visits by migrants and 300 new babies born to migrant moms. Staff here at Bellevue Hospital tell us they're eager to help, but the numbers are tough.
And then Tucker Carlson earlier this week had a guest on, and they were talking about how this is affecting us here in Texas. Here's a statistic that may make your jaw drop.
58% of the births in Texas are Medicaid births.
58%?
58%. So think about this a second, Tucker. 20 years ago, Medicaid was 3% of the Texas budget. Now it's the number 2 driver of the budget. And it's due in large part to illegal immigration. People come across the border, have their babies. Sometimes they go back, sometimes they don't. We are destroying our children and grandchildren's ability to have any kind of future whatsoever. We're drilling holes in the bottom of the lifeboat.
So how are we going to get the correct answer to our healthcare situation here when half the country won't even admit what a part of the problem is? Coming up next, we're going to talk about the other part of the healthcare problem and how it's just so disappointing that it should be one of the things that's being addressed in the continuing resolution or the budget battle, and it's not. But you'll hear that next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. You know, the real problem with our healthcare system isn't even illegal immigrants. It's the government. James Parker, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh, yeah. Now, illegals are at a big expense, but even if we kicked every single illegal out of here, even if we said no more Medicaid dollars or $1 taxpayer money is going to go to the healthcare for illegal immigrants, that would solve some of our problems, but not all of them. The other thing I'm marveling at is the arguments people are trying to make to keep these Obamacare subsidies around. It's getting really bizarre, and it requires a strict universal ignorance of economics for this to even be attempted through CNN. They have some guy that's saying, look what happens to this couple if you repeal their subsidies. Their premiums are going to go up. Listen to how much they make, though.
A higher earner in this case. Here's their current premiums per year. That's 8.5% of their income. That's sort of the top end under the current rules. Under the change, if it expires, that will jump to $25,000 per year. That's almost a 30% increase. That's almost 30% of their income, not an income, 30% of their income for the year. That's a tough thing if you're making $85,000 a year.
Okay, so the Orwellian twist on the language here is the idea that their premiums will go up from $7,500 to $25,000 a year. No. Their premiums actually won't go up at all. Their premiums will remain the same, even according to the numbers that you're looking at. If you take away the Obamacare subsidy, then yeah, they will no longer have to pay $75,000. They will have to pay $25,000. But in the meantime, you're covering the rest of that. You're the idiot. And I don't mean that you're an idiot. I mean, we're just being played for idiots over here. The difference between $7,500 and $25,000, what is that, $17,500? That other $17,500 was just being sloughed off on the taxpayers. The health insurance company is charging the same premium. They don't care. From their end, nothing changes. The only thing that changes is the people that are getting the service are actually going to be on the hook for the full cost of the services that they specifically receive instead of you. So premiums aren't going up if you get rid of the subsidy. It's just the people who are getting the service are going to have to pay for it their damn selves. That's the difference. You're not taking anything away from these people by making them pay for their own premiums. What you're doing, what's happening right now is they are taking money away from you and giving it to these people. So the only thing that's being taken away is money from you right now. If we're going to stop the little socialism that happens where we take money from one citizen and we give it to another citizen, even though they didn't work for it, if we cut out the socialism here and the people on the end have to bear the cost themselves and it's untenable, well, that's a sign that our healthcare system is not working. That's the sign that Obamacare is not working. If it's only a viable program when most of the costs are hidden and sloughed off on the taxpayers and acting like that they're getting a discount, well, then it's not really working. That's a dishonest approach. Again, this report, amazingly dishonest. We're not taking anything away from these people. We're going to stop taking money from you, or we're going to take less money from you and give it to them. And did you hear the important detail on that? This was an older couple that makes $85,000 a year. The median household income in America is $83,000. So no, they're not like billionaire status of rich, but they're richer than more than half of the country. So this isn't a welfare program. This isn't a needs-based program. It's not like we're talking about some disabled person who maybe at best is a greeter at Walmart cranking out $8 an hour in a blue vest, or I guess it's $10 an hour is their minimum wage or whatever it is. And they can't afford their health care. No, we're talking about households that are richer than half of the country. Do they really need your help? And I love this fantasy. Oh, this older couple. How old are they? Because once you turn 65, you jump on Medicare and we're on the hook for everyone who's 65 or older. You and I are subsidizing them. You understand that? So what's this magic age we're talking about? 64? And let's go ahead and assume. Let's be magnanimous here. Let's give them a little levity. Okay, it's a 60-year-old couple. They make $85,000 a year. Their healthcare costs are pretty high. I got it. But we're talking about the richest cohort in the population. 60-year-olds are richer than 20-year-olds, and 60-year-olds are richer than 30-year-olds, and 60-year-olds on average are richer than 40-year-olds. In fact, this is the wealthiest group we have in society. People age 60 and older, they hold and control most of the wealth in this country. So we're taking money from people who are poorer, who aren't getting in a household with $85,000 a year, taking it from them and giving it to these people. And this is considered just. This is considered a judicious use of taxpayer money. This is considered good economics. And really, if no illegals are getting healthcare at taxpayer expense, why would they fight it? Why? There's so many just wide open questions here that just, I can't believe people on CNN are allowed to be this dishonest. And let's talk about my solution. Push back on me if you think you can. Here's the solution. End Medicaid. End Medicare. End Obamacare. End any and every federal government intervention into the healthcare industry, period. We used to have none. In fact, we didn't have Medicare and Medicaid and all these programs and all this generosity until what, the 60s? And before that, was healthcare more affordable? Was health insurance more affordable? What about doctor-patient ratios? What about the wait time for services in an emergency room? What metric has gotten better now that we've introduced all of these programs? None. So why is it so hard to repeal it? We have Democrats who want to expand it. We have Republicans who are only trying to trim at the edges. Like, hey, can we minimize just some of the taxpayer dollars that we use to illegals? People act like now you're a Hitler. No one wants to do what I want to do. Get the government out. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Marjorie Taylor Greene siding with the Democrats on this one. You'll hear her next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the number one issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about.
All right, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene siding with the Democrats on the Obamacare subsidy extension. With friends like this, who needs enemies? Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 829.3 FM WBAP. You know, a good lesson in economics would clear up the confusion in D.C. And I just feel like it's so blatantly clear that if you do dive in and trying to learn the history of how economic systems have succeeded and failed across countries, across time, across the globe, the record of history is crystal clear. Capitalism, free market economics is a far superior way to arrange your affairs of state versus this cost-sharing socialist style hybrid system that we have going now. And it doesn't seem like Democrats or Republicans have any clue on how to actually solve this problem. They're both just can kickers. It's very frustrating. And it's frustrating in a way that, you know, well, this doesn't really affect you, Parker. Why do you care? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I have to pay health insurance premiums every month that are far higher than they would be otherwise if I even had to have health insurance. When we do have to use it, the costs are ragingly inflated because same thing for you. The cost that you would pay for your health care would go down if you didn't also have to, every time you use services, you had to pay for the free care that people were getting on Medicaid, including illegals. And you didn't have to pay for the free care that seniors are getting on Medicare. And you didn't have to pay for the free care that poor people are getting on Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program and all these other. You have to pay for yourself plus like 3 other people because we're sharing. Oh, my goodness. Look at the phones. John in Dallas, you're on WBAP.
Very, very simply, if you want to fix this healthcare problem, institute a flat tax where everybody, the wealthy, don't have the exemptions, corporate exemptions go away, and that would not only free up healthcare, but it would also fix this $4 trillion deficit that we're getting ready to go into with this big, ugly bill that was just signed. And here again, I'm a conservative, been all my life, and when I see what's going on, and I can't understand why the Republicans are not seeing the handwriting on the wall, it just tells me that if I could follow the money, I would get that answer as well.
What would your tax rate be?
That would be determined by the level of income.
Well, then that's not a flat tax.
It would be a basic flat tax with certain incomes having a certain margin, maybe 12%, under a certain dollar amount, 10%, 7%. But it would basically be a flat tax based on income levels, not all the way across the board.
So that's a progressive income tax. The more money you make, the higher of a percentage you would pay?
Well, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's the system we have now, John.
No, it's not. Because we have deductions. I would eliminate all of the deductions. We don't have that system. We have a system now where the very wealthy can implement enough deductions, and I know people in the tax codes that have definitely confirmed what I'm saying, that aren't paying any or very, very little. I heard, I think it was Mark Levin, I've got a 37% tax rate or 50% tax rate. But, yeah, what he doesn't disclose is after all his deductions, he's probably somewhere around 12%. And I mean, that goes across the board for the multi-millionaires. They are not paying their fair share, and we all know it. It is the elephant in the room.
All right. So explain to me how that would make my premiums go down.
Because there would be enough money in the federal system where
I don't get subsidies, John.
Well, you're probably in a bracket where you don't need them. If you have a multi-million-dollar contract or a contract that puts you up there, then there's no need for subsidy. The subsidy here again, you mentioned that back in the 50s we didn't have any health care. Yeah, but the death rate, the mortality rate was 58 years old.
Because we didn't have computers and whatnot. It's because
the
we were
point
dealing
I'm
with
making
50s
is-
technology. Listen, this isn't a healthcare discussion. This is an economics discussion. And if you think that if we get rid of a few deductions that rich people have, it'll raise enough money to balance the budget and we'll have enough money so everyone can get whatever they want for free or whatever, that's fantasy. There's not enough money to be had from just raising some more from deductions. Rich people aren't rich enough to pay for everybody. And if we did liquidate all their assets and take it and fund the entire federal government with it, it wouldn't. I don't even think it would cover the deficit for this year. And plus, they'd be wiped out for next year. No, that's not a long-term solution. What you just described is not a flat tax. You described a progressive tax system. It's what we have now. You just don't want deductions on it. So you're using improper economic terminology. Your math doesn't add up. It wouldn't. I mean, it would barely make a dent in the deficit. So no, and nothing you describe would fix my system either. I would still have to pay my full premium. I would still have to go to the hospital and pay inflated costs. Nothing you said here would bring healthcare costs down. It would just share the cost a little bit more. And I guess some people are just wed to the fantasy that if we just took a little bit more money from these rich people, then that would be okay and that would fix the system. That doesn't fix anything. Tom in Plano, you're on WBAP.
Yeah, hi. Well, I'd like to talk. I think the best way to reduce the cost of insurance is getting rid of the insurance companies. And the way you would do that is you would allow associations nationally to allow their members to become inside, to buy insurance. And that would be self-insurance, basically. That way, you're dealing with a TPA who's paying the claims. And that way, all the unused money from the premiums are used in future reference to lower the cost of the insurance. The biggest reason I think insurance is so expensive is the insurance companies don't want competition, and they pay the politicians to make sure there is no competition for them. And at that point, we're just raising and raising the premiums. The one big thing with the self-insured plan is the TPAs or the associations would be able to negotiate directly with the insurance providing groups. So then you can choose and pick which groups you want to use.
Yeah, you're describing co-ops. We have that. We have healthcare co-ops.
No, it's not co-op. It would be actually a self-insured plan. So you would actually, the association can't do this right now. They can't offer it nationally to all their members to go buy reinsurance.
Oh, because it stops at state lines. I get you. I misunderstood that part. All right. Well, that'd be a little bit better. That'd be.
I think it would prevent the coverage from premiums going up every year.
No, it wouldn't. Because look, one of the big drivers here is the sharing that we already do is forced on us through all these government programs, and so you have more money that's chasing the same amount of doctors and patients. So the cost is going to go up. If you just rearrange how that money is driven into the healthcare system, that's going to have minimal effect. Like what you described might make it a little bit easier for some people in some situations to get a slightly lower premium, but it's not going to lower the cost of anybody's surgery or anybody's Tylenol, if we're still allowed to have that anymore. It's not going to get illegal immigrants paying for their own bills instead of me having to pay for it. It's not going to knock people off the tax rolls. It's not going to save us $1 from Medicare or Medicaid, the two biggest drivers. So let's continue this discussion. I have a lot of great callers on hold. One line open, 800-288-9227. Because I don't think either major party gets it, and I don't think we're ready for the solution. I don't think most people are comfortable with the idea of getting rid of Medicare and Medicaid, but I'm going to try and talk you into it next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And some lessons, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the shutdown, but it sparked a pretty interesting debate here on healthcare that's not even health related. This is an economics question. And I almost want to say, after the first few callers here, I don't even want to talk to you. If you've never read a book on economics, you probably shouldn't call in it or have a strong opinion on this. But I don't want to be like a gatekeeper here. But how about this? I strongly recommend, before you have a strong opinion on this, go read Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson or Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. They're quite similar in their economic philosophy. You'll know exactly where I'm coming from, and I won't have to go back and start at the kindergarten drawing board of economics every time we have one of these discussions. And if you're thinking, well, Parker, I'm not going to go out and buy a book. All right, listen, the audiobook's on YouTube. Just go listen to it for free before we have these discussions. Because we have the Democrats who want to keep the Obamacare subsidies going. We have the Republicans who want to end them, but that's about it. But we don't have anybody up there saying, hey, how about we repeal Obamacare? And when I say nobody, like Mike Lee tweeted that. I believe Rand Paul and Thomas Massie have tweeted that. But there's no bill to repeal Obamacare. Remember, that was the coolest thing in the world. When a Democrat was in power, they had like 15 votes on repealing Obamacare. Well, what about now? I would like to go way beyond that. But now we have Republicans saying, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can end these Obamacare subsidies. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the number one issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about.
Well, look, if health insurance wasn't fixed by Obamacare, then let's talk about the idea of just the first step we should take isn't ending the subsidies. It should be ending the whole damn program. I don't know what is this rush to spend more money on healthcare? The more money we've spent, we haven't gotten better results. In fact, we've gotten worse results. We spend more money per capita on healthcare than any other country on the planet. Now, a lot of our outcomes are better, but it's not better what we have now compared to what we had before Obamacare here within America. And that's not like the beginning of the discussion. See, this is what's so just absolutely irritating about the clean continuing resolution. I don't want a clean continuing resolution. I want a resolution that cuts some of this dumb stuff out and makes our life better, not kicking the can, not continuing failed policies, actually making some changes. Because I don't think we need more health insurance. I don't think we need more programs. I think the problem is we have health insurance for too much stuff. Health insurance should only cover catastrophic things, like when expense is $100,000 or something crazy like that. But now I got to show my card every time I go in for the sniffles, or every time my kid wants to get some blood work done, or every time the health insurance company has to be involved in it. That's what's driving up the cost. Imagine how much more expensive your car insurance would be if it had to cover your gas and oil changes. That's right. Are we thinking about that now? No, we're not even having that discussion in the court of public opinion. And I don't know what's so hard about this. Repeal all of this. And people say, well, James, without Medicare, old people won't be able to afford their health care. They can't afford it now. Look, Medicare doesn't cover everything. It has premiums. It has copays. If you're a couple that is 65 right now, between now and the time you die, y'all are going to spend, on average, more than $300,000 on healthcare out of pocket. That's above and beyond Medicare and whatever else insurance you can cobble together. That's not even counting long-term care, like if you get stuck in a home. The number one driver of bankruptcy in retirement is uncovered healthcare costs. So yeah, repealing Medicare, would you even notice the difference? It would probably. I know this is so hard for people to fathom because you don't remember a world. I wasn't even born in the world before Medicare. But here we are. Jim in Carrollton, you're on WBAP.
Hey, James. I think you might have moved on from where I was going to talk about, and that was the illegal alien and the cost. One of the issues that I see is that when you talk, there's two aspects. One is emergency care, which you talked extensively about the cost of, but that's not going to go away. There's laws that say if somebody walks in, you have to take care of them.
Hang on, let me stop. That can go away. There's nothing wrong with that going away, and there's nothing inhumane about it going away. If an illegal immigrant goes into an emergency room and gets health care, they should get the bill. Not Jim and Carrollton, not James sitting over here by the American Airlines Center, not the American taxpayer, whoever gets the service. Just like if I went to the emergency room, I couldn't slough off my bill on everybody else. I couldn't go find random people in Mexico and be like, hey, this is your problem. Anyway, so I already disagree. Go ahead.
My daughter works in an emergency room, and from a standpoint of a society, if somebody walks in there and needs care, we're not going to ask them for an insurance card and put them out on the front. So
I agree with that. No, okay, again, no one is saying deny them health care treatment. No one is saying let them die. No one's saying kicking them out and just let them die in the gutter in front of the hospital. I don't know anybody that's proposing that. What is so hard about give them care and then give them the bill for the care that they just got?
You can. They won't pay it. They don't have the money to pay it.
Oh, okay. Well, can I do that?
Yeah, you can, because it happens all the time.
Cool. So
if you don't have insurance, they're going to try to bill you, and then they'll just have to give up and it happens all the time. People come. My daughter works in an emergency room. People come in there all the time, and they need this and need that, and they don't have insurance, and they can't pay, so they give them a bill, and that's the last they see of it.
Sure. All right. I'll just. Why don't we all do that for our health care then?
Well, because we're a society, and most of us are trying to keep things together. But
no, look. Here's the truth, Jim. Because I have listen. I'm sorry to keep interrupting here, but if you're building on sand, I want to build on concrete. Listen, I have healthcare bills out the wazoo. My kid had kidney failure 2 years ago. It was a $42,000 helicopter ride. I don't know if I'm ever going to pay this off, but I'm going to try because it's the right thing to do. And if I don't, I will face negative consequences. They will come after me. They'll garnish my paycheck. If I have to declare bankruptcy, that's going to ruin me financially for 7 years. I'll be untouchable basically for loans and whatnot. So why don't they have to live under the same regime that I live under, Jim? That's all I'm asking. I'm asking they'd be treated the same way I'm being treated.
And I'm in total agreement with you that they should. And not only that, if they are illegally here and they get Medicare, okay, we make sure that you're not dying, and then you're headed for the border. I agree with you. The thing about this shutdown and the Democrats, what they're doing is convoluting that emergency room care with coverage. Yeah. I think you touched on it, but the real thing, and I read about this, the real thing is that in the Obamacare, there's actually something that says coverage of illegal aliens or illegal migrants or undocumented migrants. And what the Democrats are saying is, no, we're not covering illegal aliens. We're only asking to cover DACA, asylum seekers, and refugees. The problem with that is literally everybody that came across the border under Biden fell into one of those categories, mainly the last two. Mm-hmm. Anybody that they released in the country, the only way they released them was by saying, oh, they have an asylum claim or, oh, they have a refugee claim.
Right.
Anybody who didn't have either one of those, they actually turned them around and sent them back. Very few. So there's 11 to 20 million people in here that are classified as asylum or refugee seekers. So they're covered. That's what the Democrats are trying to get covered.
All right, and listen, I got to take a break. Is that the end of your call, or do you have more? Because I got to take a break. And
other than I'm on Medicare, and if you get rid of Medicare, I'm going to have a tough time with paying bills.
Well, I'll address that coming up next, Jim, because I hear that a lot, and I do have answers for that. But I did agree with that last part, so you salvaged your call. Thank you very much. My answer to Jim and Carrollton, well, what would people in Medicare do if we got rid of Medicare? I'll explain next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. We're having a great discussion here that was launched by one of the debates over the government shutdown, and that's what we're going to do about healthcare. And the sticking point is some healthcare policy nuance, and I find this incredibly frustrating because I don't think either party is moving us in the right direction. One party wants to keep the can kicked just in a straight line. The other party wants to make it worse. I don't see anyone who's coming at it with just a sober economic understanding, proposing things that would actually make your healthcare costs go down. What they want to do is make you pay for more of other people's healthcare costs so they can get those other people's votes. They're not worried about your vote, I guess. But this isn't even really a healthcare discussion. This is an economics discussion. The arguments that we're talking about here, they are usable in every industry, period. And look, that's why you have this guy, Bernie Sanders, universal health care should be a right.
I believe that the United States must join the rest of the industrialized world in guaranteeing health care to all people as a right.
Well, you can't guarantee something as a right if you have to take money from another person to make that right happen. Like, we have the right to own guns. Everyone agree we have the right to keep and bear arms? Does that mean I should be able to take money from other people and use it on me to buy me guns? No? Okay, so that's not what a right means, Bernie Sanders. Then you have one of the most Republican-y of Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene, coming out supporting the Obamacare subsidy extension.
And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the number one issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about.
Is there no free market capitalist pigs left in America? Am I the last one? Me and Thomas Sowell and maybe 4 people on Fox Business? Are we the only ones? Because, look, I think at a bare minimum, we should repeal Obamacare. And if we can't do that, if we can't even make one step in the right direction, then it's a sad day. But I want to get rid of all the subsidies, all the programs, Medicare, Medicaid, but also all these regulations, all this oversight, all this paperwork, all these governing bodies, these boards. We have to get rid of all of that. Government intervening in healthcare has only served to make it worse. Look at all the interventions we have now. We have Medicare, we have Medicaid, we have the Affordable Care Act, we have Children's Health Insurance Program. All of these were sold to you promising healthcare would improve. It'd be more affordable, more accessible, even to the common people. Did it work? No. So at a bare minimum, can we start by repealing those? Because remember, every single regulation makes healthcare more expensive. Because if it made healthcare cheaper, we'd be doing it already. Companies would be doing it already. Consumers would be doing it already. You would be doing it already. But when I say every single regulation, I mean every single regulation. I mean even down to ending the licensing of doctors. James, you would end the licensing of doctors? I would end the government licensing of doctors. You would still go to medical school and you would be issued a degree. And if you went to the University of Texas Health School and they said, hey, we now award you the certification that you are a doctor, and you could hang that on your wall, boom, that's cool. It's already illegal to lie about that. But I mean, in all these other little chintzy regulations, because once you get rid of just like the licensing part, then you would also get rid of all the things that say a licensed doctor has to oversee and sign off on any of these healthcare issues, whether you're going to get a prescription drug or whether you're going to get a scan or whether you're going to get some sort of treatment. A doctor has to sign off on that. Get rid of every prescription drug system, period. We don't need prescription drugs. Everything should just be over the counter, period, point blank, end of story. I would end FDA oversight, because built in the price of every drug is the hundreds of millions of dollars of FDA testing and approval process. You also have to pay for every pharmacist, every one of their bosses, every pharmacy benefit manager. Have you seen how much those people make? About $200,000 a year. Why? We get rid of every doctor that has to write the subscription if you got rid of it. Every office worker that has to file the insurance paperwork from the doctor's office. Every office worker that has to receive and process the paperwork at the insurance company. Every executive and middle manager at CVS and Walgreens and whatever pharmacy, Rite Aid, at every doctor's office, at every insurance company, all the advertising for it. All those costs are built into every pill. And you can't even imagine how much the cost of your drugs would go down if we took out all these costs that we're imposing on them. And you talk about how, well, I don't know if I could afford healthcare without all these subsidies. We can't afford it with all the subsidies. If you're on Medicare, it doesn't cover so much stuff. It doesn't cover like eye care. It doesn't cover hearing. It doesn't cover podiatry. And it's terribly ironic that most people don't need eye care or hearing care until they get past age 65. And so at the only phase of your life that most people are going to need it, it's still turned down. It's still the number one way you're going to be bankrupt in retirement is Medicare. But the question I get a lot of, well, how are we going to pay for this if we get rid of Medicare and Medicaid? What did we do before LBJ? However we did it then, we already know we can do it. Churches are going to have to step up. Secular charity is going to have to step up. I don't know. We can have a chili cook-off. We can have a fundraiser. We can have a GoFundMe. But we can somehow still have like the St. Jude Hospital where a child with cancer whose parents can't afford treatment, they can go there and they can get free coverage. No one gets a bill, and it's the best coverage in the world. And we didn't have to steal $1 from a taxpayer to make that happen. Oh, we can do it. I just need y'all to be a little more imaginative. End all the subsidies. Just like regulations make the price go up, every subsidy makes the price go up. And that's, again, this isn't a healthcare argument. This is an economic argument. Because whether the subsidy is for the price of corn or college or healthcare, it is an economic law that if demand is static, but the money chasing the same goods or services increases, the price increases too. It's what basic inflation is when we print all this money for the deficit. That's why your prices go up. That's why your dollar buys less. All right, now I'm getting some good responses to that, and you will hear people, I think most of these people are going to push back on me next, which should be fun on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, it's your chance to win part of 5K a day on WBAP. Your chance at $1,000 right now. Pay off some bills. Just text GOOD to 95819. You know, like me, good, GOOD to 95819, and you could score $1,000. Sponsored locally by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm. Good luck. I got to tell you, I'm really proud of the callers today, talking about something as nerdy as healthcare. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. This is a heady topic, and there's nothing sexy about it. There's not a race war angle. There's no boobs involved. There's not sports involved. And yet here, I've had the phone line. You can't see this, but I've had the phone lines full for over an hour of people wanting to get some real answers to this very serious problem. That's healthcare costs gone out of control. It's the sticking point on the government shutdown. We're in day 8, by the way. But I see Republicans who want to continue the status quo. I see Democrats who want to make it worse. I don't see anybody who's really trying to make it better. I mean, even Marjorie Taylor Greene supports extending the Obamacare subsidies. Like, she doesn't even want to repeal Obamacare. She wants to restore. Oh, man.
And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the #1 issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about.
You know, subsidies here, the Obamacare subsidies, do not make healthcare costs go down. They just shift the burden to you, the taxpayer. So it's such a misnomer, misconception, just a miscarriage of economic justice that the conversation around this doesn't include repealing all of the things that have made healthcare so expensive in the first place. But let's get back to the callers. Y'all been really good here. Let's see what Ron in Garland has to say. What do you think about my idea of just repealing all of these subsidies? The Obamacare, Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, get rid of all that. Get rid of licensing. Get rid of prescription drugs, everything over the counter. Go, Ron. What do you think?
First of all, good afternoon. How are you doing? Just real quick, man. That's all well and good if you've got a good plan to do it with, because like I told you, screener, I put 54 years into the Social Security. So am I going to get screwed out of my Social Security now?
No, I am.
Because they want to change
No, listen,
plans?
look, I have an answer for that. The Social Security Trust Fund is going to run dry around 2032. And so then they will only be able to pay out what can be covered by the money that's coming in, which will be estimated about 78, 77% in that first year. And it will dwindle every year since. So you're not going to be screwed by not getting Social Security. I know you say you paid into the system, but that's what everybody who paid into a Ponzi scheme says. Well, I paid into this, now I should be able to get it out, but the money's not there. The bank vault has been robbed, and I didn't rob it. I'm just telling you the bank vault's empty. So no,
I know,
because that's not your money. Your money already got spent. And so when you get Social Security, it's not going to be your money. It's going to be younger people who are still working. You're going to be taking money from them. Now, just because you've been screwed for the last 54 years and people have taken your money and spent it on other people doesn't mean it's moral, ethical, or economically sound to continue the grift just until you pass away.
Well, yeah. So, let's call Obamacare what it is. It's a distribution of wealth. That's what it was meant to be. And
agreed.
We had decent health care before Obamacare. It wasn't the best, but it was decent.
But
When
80
Obamacare
something
came along-
percent of people in surveys said that they liked their healthcare system. Yeah, before Obamacare.
Well,
You're right.
I know one thing. I had friends that were paying like $15,000 deductibles when Obamacare come around. So I don't think that's too good. But anyway, and yeah, I understand the whole thing. The way the Social Security is being paid right now is the people that are still working right now. So I'm retired, but and I've got my retirements, and all that. I'm fine. But like I said, I'm getting Social Security because I worked for Social Security.
See, Ron, you shouldn't have told me you're retired because that makes you even worse. Because your parents and grandparents left you a trust fund, and what people who are retired right now. I'm not trying to insult you. I want to tell you the truth because you're not going to be looked at very well by subsequent generations if you don't do something about this. Because what happened is you took that trust fund that your grandparents and parents left for you, and you spent all of that on yourself. You took the money that you put into the trust fund and you spent it on yourself. And now you're taking money that we're putting in the trust fund and you're spending it on yourself. And if you're the guy that's in the Ponzi scheme taking money out on the day the Ponzi scheme collapses, which I think will be around 2032, you're the bad guy in this situation. Oh, I think you got plenty. I think you got way more than you paid in, probably at this point, depending on how long you've been retired. And you're the guy who spent down the trust fund that was already there. You're the guy who's not leaving a trust fund behind, and you're the guy who's taking more money out so the current generation can't put it into a trust fund. So yeah, that's
I'm all for any kind of plan. If it's going to be different and it's going to help people down the line.
Yeah, here's the plan. Cut it. End it. What's wrong with just ending it? How is that not a plan? Like when
What's your solution to do it? I understand exactly.
End it. That's my solution.
What's your solution?
When you cut out cancer, you don't replace it with anything. That is the solution. End it. What's the question here? Like, how are you supposed to survive?
No, I mean, I'm going to survive because, the Lord, I worked all my life, so there's a lot of people that didn't save. We did, so I understand, like I said, I had a stroke in 2016. That's why I had to retire, and people ask me, how did I get my disability so fast? So I said, well, I worked all my freaking life. How do you think I got it? I'm all for people getting Social Security, and if it isn't Social Security, if we can do something else, then that's fine. But you know it as well as I do. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think that woman's lost her freaking marbles. She all of a sudden she's coming up with all these freaking harebrained schemes. I don't understand her points at all anymore. But, yeah,
not getting a subsidy. I don't see the concern here. Like, what are you concerned about? What's wrong with just getting rid of Social Security? Because look, we're not going to let people die. We're not going to let them just.
I'm not concerned.
Okay, I know not you, but you're concerned about other people who aren't in your situation, I suppose. Because listen, I understand that a lot of people cannot maintain their current standard of living in retirement if we get rid of Social Security. But all you're going to do is do what we did for every generation up until a few years ago. You'll probably move in with your kids, or if your kids move in with you, and then you'll continue living in that house. And that would be a good thing. I think that would strengthen the family. I think putting off taking care of your parents, because that's who's really getting the benefit here from Social Security, isn't the people in retirement. It's for the children of retirees who don't have to take care of their parents like every other generation did. But think about it. It was so normal that if you go look in the census countings of your own family, how many people lived in the household, a lot of times it was kids, parents, and grandparents. There might be a couple aunts and uncles or a great aunt or uncle. But I think America would benefit if the grandparents had to move back in a lot of these households. Do you think we would have the problem with the letter people that we have now if grandpa was in the home? Do you think there would be a lot of gender confusion if grandpa was there saying, no, you're not a girl. You stop, that's silliness. There would be people to pass on the traditional values. There would be people to counteract the programming that they're getting from Netflix and public school teachers who are trying to groom them and the librarians who are trying to show them obscene sexual material. I think this would be a bulwark both culturally and economically, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Victoria Churchill with the Daily Mail is going to talk about a conservative journalist that was arrested after getting beat up by anti-ICE protesters. What's going on? That story next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Don't worry, we will continue the healthcare discussion after this next guest. All you people on hold, I want to talk to every single one of you. Stick around, especially those who disagree. But this is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. There was a curious case that happened last Thursday. There's a conservative journalist, Nick Sorter, and he got arrested. And then over the weekend, I was seeing people saying, can you believe he got arrested? And from what it looked like is he was in Portland, and there was some Antifa protesters burning an American flag, and who went over there, and I guess the understanding is he tried to grab the flag from him. A scuffle ensued, and a couple of Antifa people got arrested, but Nick got arrested too. And let's get some better details on this. Victoria Churchill is going to give me a hand from Daily Mail, Young Voices. She's been on the show 1,000 times if you've heard her before. Welcome back, Victoria Churchill. Now, I heard there's not going to be charges after all, but all weekend, people were really upset that charges were being pursued at all, considering they were making this sound like a defensive effort on the part of Nick Sorter. Do I have the story correct first? Yeah, and you know this is all political here because some rioters get different treatment than other rioters, and the one good thing about January 6th happening is we now know that it can happen. You can go find everyone that participated in a protest that got out of control and go track them down across 48 states and arrest them all and throw them all in jail. We know it can actually happen, Victoria. Well, Victoria Churchill, it's great to sometimes when I click through, I'll see your stuff on the Daily Mail. I'm like, hey, I know her. Go check out her latest work. She put out a piece yesterday talking about the Pam Bondi hearing that she just mentioned. I wish you love Chicago as much as you hate Trump. What a good headline. So go check that out, the Daily Mail, and listen, because Victoria Churchill will definitely be on again soon. Thank you very much, Victoria, for coming back on. All right, I see you monsters on hold. I'll be back to talk to you because if you're just joining us, we were in the middle of a discussion over the issue that has the government shut down right now. What do we do about rising healthcare costs and unaffordable healthcare insurance premiums and unaffordable healthcare period? One party wants to kick the can down the road and continue the status quo. The other one wants to throw more taxpayer money at the situation. I say a pox on both your houses, and I want to gut the whole system down to nothing. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We will continue discussing free market healthcare reforms next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Government shutdown goes into the 8th day. And you just heard from Kim there that the vote crashed and burned. So guess what? The party continues. All right. Can we get a 9th day? Looks like we're going to get a 9th day. Can we get a 10th day? Can we get a 10? We've got to get a 10. Can I get an 11? Can I get a 12? Can I get a 12? We got 12 over there. Can I get a 13? Wow, this thing just keeps going on. Because every day that this government stays shut down, the American people can look around and be like, all right, I'm fine. What do we need to spend all this money for again? You don't. And that includes the issue that is holding everything up. It's all about these Obamacare subsidies. And look, I expect the Democrats, they always want to grow government. They always want to give away your money. I get it. But we have Marjorie Taylor Greene breaking ranks with the Republicans and wanting to extend the subsidies. And it's just, excuse me, Marjorie, I'm not done. It's just a display of pure economic ignorance that I don't expect this from Team Red, but here we are.
And I'm not going to stand there and just keep talking the talking points when my own adult children can hardly afford health insurance premiums, when everyone in my district, it's the #1 issue that I hear about day in and day out, not just people on the ACA, but people that have private insurance as well. And I think it's something that we have to talk about.
I think the recent history has been crystal clear. The more regulations and money we throw at this problem, the worse it's gotten. And the first thing that we can do, the smartest thing we can do, is peel all that back. Peel back the regulations. Peel back all the subsidies. Peel back Medicare, Medicaid, children's health insurance, all that. All that. And you know what it is? Free market health care. From the political point of view, though, it should be called constitutional health care. Because the founding fathers knew about doctors and healthcare expenses and whatnot. And it's not like they're just sorry hacks that forgot to write that in the Constitution. No, it was explicitly left out that the government shouldn't be intervening into healthcare. And so if we just return back to what the Constitution says the federal government should do, then I would get my way. And I see both parties proposing things that are blatantly not just not working, they're also unconstitutional and they're economically illiterate. And that's where my frustration comes from. 800-288-9227. This is Kevin in North Richland Hills. You're on WBAP.
Hey, James. You went off the rails for a little bit there, but I think you're back on it. But the question I have, I'm 64. My dad's 90, and I live with him, okay? And we paid in to Medicare, Medicaid, FICA. It was all in your paycheck. I don't know if you get a paycheck and it's all in there, but we're on this edge, okay? And so if you cut all that stuff out right now, we're smoked.
No, you're not.
Okay. Give me your 2 points.
Okay, so for all of American history up until LBJ, somehow
Yes.
people who were your age and your father's age, they didn't have the same access to healthcare subsidies that we have now. How did they do it?
Well, they paid cash. And
yes.
I paid cash. I'm a four. I've had 4 cancer surgeries, and I paid cash for it all. Okay.
Wow.
But yeah. But beside the point. But all the money that we paid in for this, I paid in for this since I was 16 years old until I retired.
Yeah, well, that doesn't change the fact that it's gone now. You when you say you paid into this system, you act like you paid into this money and they're just holding on to that for a future date so they can return this money to you. But you know that's not what happened, right?
No, they stole it.
Cool. All right, good. I like that verbiage a lot better. So just because someone stole money from you and gave it to someone else, whether it's for benevolent causes or not, we can kind of agree that for a lot of people, they see that as unethical, myself included. You just want to continue the unethical practice when it benefits you.
No.
Okay.
I just, we paid all this money into it, and we would like to get a return. Now from the guy that called it is on a trust fund, okay? Because I don't make a whole lot of money on my pension, and you don't have a pension, but on your paycheck, do you still pay into that?
What, FICA?
Medicare, Medicaid.
Yeah, I do.
Medicaid, Medicare, and FICA.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Because I worked for a major airline, and this guy came up to me and he said, young guy, and he said, "What's all this stuff?" I said, "Well, the more you make, the more they take."
Yeah, up to a certain point, but let me give you a little more thoughtful answer because I was just trying to continue the conversation with short answers there. Let's take your 90-year-old dad and you and your situation, and if we got rid of Medicare and Medicaid, if you have assets and you possibly could cover it, you would cover it that way. If you had family members with disposable income and they were generous enough to help you out, you could get help that way. If you had like a fundraiser or a GoFundMe and you got your immediate community to chip in, maybe they passed the plate for you at church, you could pay for it that way. You could get help from perfect strangers by going to the charity hospital system that was mostly underwritten by religious organizations, and that's you see the echoes of that in the names for so many of our hospitals. You know, there's Presbyterian Hospital over off Walnut Hill. I was born at Mother Francis Hospital, an obvious religious connection to the Catholic Church there. And so there's also Shriners Hospitals where the guys that drive the little go-karts and parades, they have all kinds of fundraisers.
Yep.
And they get care there. There's St. Jude Hospital where any kid can go get cancer treatment there. And that's the thing is you're going to have to rely on private voluntary donations, and that's much more ethical and efficient, and there's accountability there, and you don't have to go through the ugly thing of the taxation that's disguised, the theft that's disguised as taxation, I should say. That's all I'm asking for. Instead of the money being forcibly taken from us and put into the healthcare system, we can cover the job quite nicely with private voluntary donations. And I know we can because we did it for all of American history up until the 60s. And so that's kind of what my answer would be.
It will have to wind down, okay? Wind down and not just cut it off completely. Like I told you, I'm 64, and I saw all this stuff before you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And and my dad lived through World War II. I lived through Korea and Vietnam. But anyway, that doesn't matter. It's just needs to wind down slowly. I'm not a Democrat by all means. Believe me, I'm a Trump supporter.
Well, look, I would prefer for it to just be ended at the end of the year. That's fine, and we'll just deal with the consequences as they may. There will be a short period of chaos, but we'll arise better on the other side. But if it can get me to my end goal of getting rid of all these programs and you want to wind it down over 3 to 5 years, I would certainly sign up for that. I would certainly agree with that part of it. If that's what it takes to get us where I'm trying to go, okay, I'll be a little soft on that part.
And we ain't playing a football game, okay? The end goal. All right.
I hear you there. All right. Well, hey, great discussion here. See, we're having great conversations here that I am not hearing on TV. I don't hear these good discussions in Congress when they're talking about this. This is the kind of stuff Marjorie Taylor Greene should be talking about. This is the kind of stuff that people should be saying back when Bernie Sanders says his goofy thing like, everyone that has health care is a universal right. We're the only country in the industrialized world that doesn't do it. It just sounds silliness. It's like economic elementary school. It's like I'm dealing with the kids' placemat at Shoney's. It's like, hey, we need to have more adult, grown-up, complex conversations about it. And you guys have done really good handling that on the James Show. And I mean that to callers. So thank you very much. Coming up next, the great Raven Harrison is going to be on the James Show. Talk about the Trump deployments and the shutdown and all the fun around that. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 829.33 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Trump is deploying more troops to more cities. Now the Texas National Guard has arrived in Illinois. And, of course, it's being called fascist. I got it. But is it? Is this going to help? Is this the right thing to do? Is it going to go back to chaos as soon as we withdraw the troops? Let's ask my next guest, Raven Harrison, back on the James Show. Welcome back, Raven. How's it going? Yeah, it's been a while. So the Trump deployments keep going. It keeps being called fascist. You know, that he's got his jackbooted thugs in the streets. And how long are we going to do this? Because I like the idea of making our inner cities safer, making our major American cities safer. But if they're not going to actually try and solve the problem by putting criminals in jail and keeping them there, I feel like it would just revert back to whatever chaos it was when we withdraw the troops. So I don't know if there's much of a long-term solution here. What do you think? Yeah. Well, I love that point. So I think politically, though, this has to be a winner for Trump because there are people in the inner cities that live in a bubble. Like if you live in the country, you have to come into the city on a semi-regular basis to do things, to shop at stores that we don't have or go to a water park or a sporting event or a concert or a business meeting or a convention. But some of these people, they never really leave their city, so they don't understand how different the world is outside of their city. And I just think if people got to experience, what happens if you go into CVS and half the store's not locked up? What happens if, when you're walking to your car in the middle of the night after you leave a bar, you don't have to worry about the guy following you or whatever? And I think politically speaking, this could have a profound impact on voters that wouldn't otherwise be reached. Yeah, isn't that the truth? So they represent illegals in some of these facets. Then they'll represent criminals when it comes to who they let on the Charlotte trains. So that's not really a good look. However, that's not what they're hearing from the media. The media language around this continues to be so hyperbolic and dishonest. And I feel like it's the same sort of rhetoric that led to Charlie Kirk getting shot and the ICE attacks and all the other troubles that we're seeing. And the media is not learning their lesson on this at all. Right. Let me ask you an impossible question, Raven. How long is this shutdown going to last? Well, the longer the better is my ongoing wish here. So we'll check back in soon, Raven. I appreciate you being on the show. All right, good stuff. I love her. Coming up next, some more effects of the shutdown have affected air travel here in Texas. How bad is it? Not really that bad. And I have the solution for that as well. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. It's your chance to win part of 5K a day on WBAP. Your chance at $1,000 right now. Pay off some bills. Just text collect to 95819. That's collect to 95819, and you could score $1,000. Sponsored locally by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm. Good luck.
Now, day 8 of the government shutdown, and travel troubles are starting to get worse at airports across the country.
Oh no, travel troubles from the government shutdown. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I have a similar response to this pretend tragedy from the government shutdown. Get the government out of it. Get the government out. Why do we have government air traffic controllers? Do you know Canada has privatized air traffic controllers? Why can't the airports or the airlines or the passengers or a combination of all three pay for that their damn selves? Why do they have to be government workers? Because that's a rhetorical question. They don't. And the second we have them back in private hands, then guess what? It doesn't matter if the government's open or not. It doesn't matter if there's a shutdown. Your air travel is not going to be dependent on whether or not the Republicans and the Democrats can agree on how much more of your money they're going to spend than last year. Wouldn't that be great? Again, Canada can do it. Canada can have privatized air traffic control. Don't tell me we can't do it. For that matter, let's get rid of the TSA while we're at it. You know, for all of aviation history in America up until September 11th, up until 2001. It was a private effort. Or it was, if it was done by a government, it was something more local, you know, like a port authority, something to that effect. But we definitely didn't have the federalized Transportation Safety Administration like we do now. And what a colossal failure they have been. The TSA, it was something that was forced on us in the scary aftermath of 9/11. And their sole job was to prevent another 9/11 from happening by what? Catching terrorists before they can get on planes. How many terrorists has TSA caught in their now 24-year history? It's a pretty easy answer here. It's not
$1,400,600,000,000,000.
No, it's less than that.
2008.
Less than that.
8.4.
I don't even know how you find 0.4 terrorists. No, actually, the number is 0. They haven't caught any terrorists. They do. It is the federal government's most successful gun confiscation program ever. They do rack up thousands of guns out of private citizens' hands every year. And I'm not talking about like guys that were about to hijack it and fly it into a building. I'm talking about, remember like Barry Switzer, remember he got in trouble for trying to take a gun on a plane or whatever. It's just goobers who forgot to put it in their check bag or whatever. So they managed to confiscate a lot of guns. They never catch one terrorist. For the few terror attempts that have happened, they've gotten right through TSA. The shoe bomber, the fruit of the boomer. Remember the guy that had the underwear bomb and he just scorched his undercarriage? Probably ruined his fertility chances for the rest of his life trying to blow up a plane. No, they get right through. When they run the test, and the government agents themselves test another government agent, they show like 90% of the time they can sneak a knife on, they can sneak a gun on, they can sneak a weapon on, a box cutter on. You know what they have done? About 1 out of 3 of my trips, I get backhanded in my private parts by some dude. Yeah, get rid of the TSA. Taking your shoes off for 20 years. Was that the dumbest experiment we've had? But how many lessons do we have to have here? In the issues that are happening from the government shutdown, I wish the takeaway was an economic takeaway saying, woof, we've got to separate all these important services out of the hands of the federal government. Heck, out of government, period. We need to start privatizing a lot of stuff. But I don't think a whole lot of people are getting that lesson. I think they like it because they can be used against us when it's politically expedient. No, politicians wouldn't do that, Parker. Yeah, I tell you, they would. They would. 800-288-9227. This is Chris and Keller. You're on WBAP.
Hey there. No, I was just going to say that I completely agree with getting rid of the federal government being behind all these aid things. I never assumed Social Security was actually going to be available for me when I retired.
How old are you?
It was always my assumption if I was going to ever have the chance for my wife and I to retire, I was going to have to figure out how to fund that myself. And I know my parents didn't know anything about how to handle money.
How old are you?
Their idea was pay with the credit card and then refinance the house to pay off the credit card. I'm 43.
Okay. So
I knew I needed to invest in my own financial literacy. I had to take classes. I had to open up accounts just to have an account with a bank that would teach me stuff. I had to listen to AM radio on the weekend. I had to do everything I could to try to learn what to do with my money so that I could figure out how to retire.
Well, yeah, and so retirement is kind of a luxury of the affluent that has really only happened in about the last, 50 or so years. When 98% of the country was sustenance farmers, there was no such thing as retirement. You either had to get up and feed the animals and take care of your crops, or you wouldn't have anything to eat. Now, when you became so old and infirmed that you were no longer suited for manual labor, then you would stay in the cabin, do what you could, and kind of help out domestically. Probably a lot of your services were watching the kids of because you're living with your kids, you're watching your grandkids while your kids are out providing for both of you. And that's not really an anomaly because that's what you just went through. You probably took care of your parents after they were old and infirmed. And, it was something that Social Security sounds nice. We can just take money and subsidize retirement, and then everybody can have a retirement and not have a drop in their standard of living. But that was a fantasy that could not be sustained on a long enough time scale, and we're just finding out the hard way. And I kind of like the idea of when you pull the rug out from under them, all you're doing is putting these families back together. You're putting families that are otherwise separated, and they're going to be under the same household. And so, sure, your standard of living might go down for a little bit, but because why? Because you're taking care of your own family? Well, that's not any great injustice. You're supposed to take care of your own family before strangers do. That's for damn sure. So,
I completely agree.
No, well, Chris,
but I think if we really want to make a big change, though, start teaching financial education to kids starting at 8, 9 years old. Families, get involved in this, because if you start teaching people how to look at this and then they see, oh, well, then you can actually have those conversations with parents and kids and grandkids. Have those family plans.
Yeah. Well, you're right, but
have the conversation first.
Let me make one kind of addition to that, a corollary to that. It needs to start with adults, because even for talk radio listeners, most people that I talk to, if you meet me at an event or we bump into each other at a bar or some other event and we get to have a long conversation, most adults don't even know what their economics are. I know I'm an Austrian economist. I know. And if I talk to some of my other nerdy friends, they're like, I'm more of a Chicago school monetarist, or I'm sort of like an Art Laffer supply side guy, or, there's people who know that they're like Keynesian or whatever. Most people can't even name what their economic philosophies are. And I'm like, how do you even know who to vote for? How do you even know how to approach these issues of healthcare or, the air traffic control or education and whatnot? You don't know anything about economics. So you don't even know that there are options. And I was guilty of that too. When I came out of college, I actually took economics in college, and they called it economics. But what I really learned was Keynesian economics. And I thought that was all there was. So I thought, well, I know economics. I was taught it in college. I didn't know squat, Chris.
I had to go out and seek out my own education in all of this. And I mean, we homeschool our kids now, and we're starting to teach them. My 9-year-old's going to learn how to trade stock before she's 12. Because if you don't learn this stuff, there's anywhere where you're going to learn it if you don't look for it.
All right, Chris, I am starting my kid, my oldest kid's 15. I'm about to make him listen to the audiobook of Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. I think that's a good starter. The other book I think would be great for, I'm going to force down his throat before he gets out of the house, is the Thomas Sowell book, Basic Economics. And I think if all of America would expose themselves to those two books, half of our problems would be solved.
Completely agreed.
All right. Well, great call. I like Chris. Hey, what's your economics, Chris? Do you know your economics school of thought?
My school of thought is I'm bullish on American economy, and I'm in a dividend returns-based profile where I want to be able to live off of nothing other than interest and leave whatever's there for my kids.
All right, but what do you label that? Is that, are you a supply sider? Are you an Austrian like me? What's your school of thought?
I guess I don't know in that terminology.
Well,
I buy stocks for the purpose of it growing and feeding me an income while I'm holding it.
Well, we'll dig in, get into the theory side of it, and figure out which one you are. So you sound like you got a good start going, but next time you call, I want that answer, Chris. Thank you very much. 800-288-9227. I have some jokes coming up on the James Show because Joe Biden has a new memoir coming out, and I want to know what you think the title should be. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, you remember earlier this year when AOL said they're going to cut out their dial-up service? Well, they actually cut it off this week. There were 166,000 Americans that were still using dial-up internet. That's how we're going to think about painting your house here in a few years. James Parker here for Rhino Shield. It's just old technology. Once you learn about Rhino Shield and learn what all it can do, you're insane to even think about paint because look, it blocks 90% of UV rays. It's thicker than paint. It lasts longer than paint. You still get the cool texture. Like if you put it on wood, you can still see the wood grain and whatnot. If you put it on brick, you can still see the texture of the brick. But it also has, it lowers your energy costs. It has a 6.9 R factor. Do you know what an R factor is? Yeah, I don't either. But it insulates your house and it performs better than paint. Paint can't do that. Rhino Shield doesn't crack, doesn't flake, doesn't peel. It increases your resale value, has a 25-year transferable warranty. And Rhino Shield's so good, the bank can even finance it for you. The bank won't give you a loan on paint. So go to rhinoshielddfw.com. Don't paint your house, coat your home. Go to rhinoshielddfw.com. No, it's not a joke. Joe Biden just got a $10 million book deal. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I know you've already got jokes. I've already got jokes. You've already thought of it. A $10 million book deal for his presidential memoir. Oh my God, this is so easy. And so the obvious jokes we got here is, what's the title of the book going to be? Well, let's come up with some titles here. You ready? Oh man, this is such a shooting fish in a barrel here. So here's some ones that I thought of here. First, it'll be the first presidential memoir written by Otto Penn, but that's not one of the jokes. All right, here's the title. How about Corn Pop Was a Bad Dude and Other Bedtime Stories? How about No Malarkey? Hey, Jill, where's my teleprompter? Notes from the Big Guy. Another good title for Joe Biden's upcoming memoirs. I Got Hairy Legs. How about I Was President? Question mark. I like the Otto Penn Diaries. I like, here's a good one. This may be my favorite one. Partial Recall. You know, younger kids, there was a movie called Total Recall. So there's Partial Recall. The Art of the Steal. Huh? How about Memoirs of a Vegetable? Or is that offensive to vegetables? How about I Was a Lying Dog-Faced Pony Soldier? Kind of wordy, but effective. I like the idea of Falling Up. He did that a few times. I like another good title would be Come On, Man.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Another good title for Joe Biden's upcoming memoirs. You know, The Thing. I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message. Conversations with Myself. I came, I saw, I forgot. And finally, Let's Go, Brandon. Thank you. If you have any recommendations for the title of Joe Biden's upcoming presidential memoirs, you can email me, james@wbap.com. Send me a Facebook message, Twitter message, whatever, YouTube comment. I'll see it. Maybe we'll add to the list tomorrow. But that's going to do it for the James Show today. Thank you very much for hanging out. Stick around. Coming up next, the great one, Mark Levin. I'm James Parker. This has been the James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.